This is Dr. Carroll, and this is another video in the Python Files series. And so this video is about opening files. Remember, there's 4 steps to using a file. First, open the file, then verify that it's successfully opened, read from it or write to it, and then close the file. So that's in context. We're going to be talking about step 1, opening the file. To be able to do this, we need to use the Python built-in function open. And what this does is open creates a file object. That's a new thing probably that you're not familiar with. Creates a file object and associates that object with a file that we specified. So let's talk about the syntax. How does it know that? Okay, so we obviously have open. We give it a file name, and so that's how it knows what file to associate it with, and then it's going to return a file object type. Okay, so this is typically how we use it. We call open, give it the file name, and then record the file object. Now notice the file object is not the file name. That's a common mistake when starting out with Python. And so this is how we typically use it. Now there is another general format, and that's the exact same except we can provide a second argument, and that is the mode. So let's talk about file modes. And so there are 3 major modes, R, W, and A. So R is for open for reading. And if a mode is not specified, it's going to default to just opening the file for reading because this is the safest mode. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So going on to the W mode, this is open for writing. Now, if the file exists, then it will be erased. Let me repeat that. If the file exists, it will be erased. So we need to be careful when opening a file in write mode to make sure it's not a file that we actually care about the contents. And if it doesn't already exist, well, then it's going to create a new file. Either way, it's going to start with a blank file. Either it truncated, it erased an existing file, or it opened and created a new file. Well, you might be saying, well, what if I wanted to add on to the end of a file? That's a great question, and that brings us to the A file mode. This is open for appending. Oh, so yes, it's open for writing, but notice what kind of writing we're going to do. If the file already exists, it's going to append to the end of the file. And if it doesn't exist, it's going to create a new file. So similar to open with the W file mode, but it won't erase the contents. We're going to add it to it. Those are the 3 main file modes. Other file modes exist about opening in binary mode or opening both for reading and writing, which is crazy. I don't recommend that. And so there are other ones that exist, but this is almost all usage of opening a file is going to use reading, writing, or appending. Let's see some examples. So here we have open, and it's going to return a file object, and I'm naming that input file object. And we're saying, hey, I want to open the file data.csv. And so notice I didn't specify the mode, so then it's just opening it for reading. And then if we were to display and get more intuition about what is this thing that open returned, we could look at its type and say, what is the type of input file mode? And it's going to display something you may have never seen before. It's going to say class _IO text IO wrapper. Well, that's a fancy way of saying it's a file object. Okay. Now let's look at an output file object then. Oh, exact same setup. Open. We want to open the results.txt file, but we need to write to it for it to be an output file. So opens and erases the results.txt file if it already exists, or it creates the results.txt file. And again, if we said, hey, what type is the output file object? It's exactly the same type as before. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out my other videos in the Python file series.